to downtown. Outbound 31. Stevenson, 39 minutes, 3:55 to drive. Ryan, 18 minutes, 95th to downtown. I-57, 17 minutes, I-80 to the merge. Ford about the same. Tollways are really light this morning. No problem to report in northwest Indiana. Now, the outbound Eisenhower ramp to the outbound Kennedy is now closed for long-term restructuring. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in the 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Clouds and sun, high 42 today, cloudy and 27 overnight. It is currently 28. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Retire Chicago. Tune in Saturday mornings at 8 to Retire Chicago with John McNamara of McNamara Capital.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
President Trump on Friday explaining his decision to take out Iranian General Soleimani.
We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war.
That's not what Comrade Bernie Sanders is saying over the weekend on the trail.
Yesterday, President Trump ordered the assassination of a top Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, in Iraq, along with the leader of an Iraqi militia. This is a dangerous escalation that brings us closer to another disastrous war in the Middle East.
And he went on to say, too, that it was an assassination, which Michael Bloomberg was quick to point out, no, it was not. And even Vice President Biden seemed to point that out, too, like this was not what you think it is.
Well, there's a divided opinion because Elizabeth Warren danced around the assassination word with Jake Tapper.
It's good to be here.
So you called the U.S. attack that killed Qasem Soleimani a, quote, assassination. President Ford issued an executive order in 76 to make political assassinations illegal. Are you saying that this strike was a violation of law?
Look, it was a targeted attack on a government official, a high-ranking military official for the government of Iran. And what it's done has moved this country closer to war.
I'm sorry for your loss, Bernie and Elizabeth. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Cortes, CNN political commentator, Trump Hispanic Advisory Council member, and now...
wait, we need a drum roll. Drum roll.
Now...
It's a big announcement.
Now, wait for it.
Wait
For it.
Although it's already in the Chicago Tribune, but keep waiting.
Keep waiting. This is not official until I say so.
Okay.
I can end this right here.
Zip.
Now he is the host on this very... radio station of the Steve Cortes Show, 5 to 7 p.m.
Wait, you mean he's not hosting the Dan Proft Show?
He's not, yes.
How did you come up with that title?
Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it took a lot of focus groups, and they came back and they said the Steve Cortes Show was going to work, so we're running with it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
You start tonight.
I start tonight. Tonight is the inaugural episode of the broadcast of the Steve Cortes Show. We're going to have fantastic guests, including Steve Bannon. We're going to be talking about this situation, of course, in the Middle East. We're also going to be talking a lot about media bias. And when I say media, I don't mean just the news media, but also the entertainment media and Ricky Gervais. So I think we'll have an entertaining show tonight and for many, many nights and hopefully years to come. I am a little worried, Dan, that I've heard about the pledgeship program at WIND, and I hope that the hazing will be reasonable for a newbie like me at the station.
What you guys do in the men's locker room?
No.
None of my business.
No, you're going to have to talk to Amy about that. She's the Greek person at Iowa. I was a GDI. I was a GDI at Northwestern, so you'll have to bring that up with Amy Jacobson. I can't help you there, Steve.
Understood. But listen, looking forward to it, and I've had a wonderful time as a substitute host, and really excited for the show. And I hope to be a voice for the deplorables and a champion of American nationalism. And in this election year, there's so much going on right now in the Middle East that right this minute it's hard to lose sight, or it's easy to lose sight rather, of the election and impeachment. But we have so much going on in 2020 that I think it's going to be an incredible news year, and I'm anxious to use my relationships with the president and the White House and the campaign to enlighten, I hope, the audience on the actual happenings and give them the truth about what is going on in 2020 rather than the spin that they hear far too often from corporate media.
Now, are you going to do anything fun, like have recipes or like a handicap harness racing or something, just to mix it up a bit?
Yes, listen, I do think it's important. Man cannot live on bread alone, can't live on politics alone. So it's going to be important to talk about the cultural issues, and we will certainly have some fun with it, particularly on Fridays. I really want on Fridays to, at times, as much as possible, take a break from politics and talk about other issues which are relevant to people's lives. And in seriousness, too, getting away from pure politics, but matters of the culture war. I think that politics are an important part of culture, but of course it's not the only part of culture. And I hope that this show will be a platform where people can express their views and learn about what's going on in the culture war in this country. So we'll hopefully have some fun, learn, grow, become more prosperous people, more patriotic Americans together through this show.
Now, I wanted to see if I can get you into a bit of controversy right out of the gate. Tucker Carlson said Trump loyalists like you shouldn't be beating their chests about the elimination of General Soleimani. This is so much of the neoconism that we're supposed to be walking away from in the Trump era.
Right. Now, listen, I think Tucker makes really valid points. I don't agree with him here, although that's rare for me. I normally do agree with Tucker Carlson, and I think this is a time for nuance, which I know is something that's sorely lacking in general in our political sphere today, and certainly in the punditry business. What I do on television, there's not enough nuance. But I think there's a nuanced position right now, at least mine, I hope is. And what I mean by that is this: that the killing, the strike against Soleimani was completely justified and correct. He was a combatant in the theater, and we had not only the right to kill him, but I would argue really the obligation, quite frankly, to kill him to protect Americans and American interests. Having said that, though, I'm one who I would agree with Tucker on this point. I wish we weren't in that theater at all. Mm-hmm. I think that the war, now Trump inherited this situation, an awful situation. Wars of adventure have been disastrous for this country. We have lost far too many precious lives. We have lost too much treasure engaging in nation building and in really a Pollyanna type philosophy that says that we can turn countries into American-style democracy. So I praise the president for, in general, pulling back from that and pulling back hard from that trend, that unfortunate trend that the last two presidents, and look, I think our failures on this score were bipartisan over the last two presidencies. So I think he was correct to strike back at Soleimani. And again, it was striking back. They drew first blood, so it's striking back. But it would be totally inconsistent with his philosophy and bad for America if we were to engage in all-out war. No invasions, no nation building, but I believe we can do both. I think we can protect American interests with surgical strikes, as we did with Baghdadi, as we did now with Soleimani. I think we can do that without then taking that huge leap into full-scale invasion.
And what about advance warning? I mean, Israel was given advance warning. Lindsey Graham knew about it because he had golfed with President Trump a week before. But what about key European allies who have troops in the region? They were not given any advanced warning.
Right. No, listen, people who have soldiers and then troops at risk in the region, I think that was probably a mistake. And I hope that was just an oversight and not purposeful to not notify them, because I do think that, look, if they're willing to risk lives for this cause, and again, I wish that we weren't there. I mean, so I want to make that clear. I don't believe that we should be there. I think the fact that Iraq, among the Iraqi people, that there is significant, it's certainly not majority, but there is significant support for Iran. To me, that reality, and we have seen that highlighted by this killing of Soleimani, the fact that there is significant support for the Iranian regime within Iraq, a country where we have spent trillions of dollars and lost thousands of soldiers, to me, that has proved positive that this was a foolhardy mission. We never should have invaded in the first place. We don't belong there now in the capacity or to the extent that we're there now. However, people are on the ground and are risking their lives, both Americans and other NATO allied people. And given that reality, when we're attacked or threatened, we have to strike back. And I think it would have been prudent to inform allies of what was coming.
Well, then, but if we're not there and you allow Iraq to become a proxy state of Iran, a situation that has deteriorated since Obama's abrupt pullout in 2011, obviously, then that's destabilizing in the region, including to our friends in Israel, isn't it?
Potentially, yes. And look, but I'm not saying do nothing, sir. I'm not, hardly. Look, I think Iran is a country, an aggressor that needs to be countered. To me, the way to counter them, though, is far greater sanctions. And what I really mean by that is the United States has done about all we can do, quite frankly, in terms of economic sanctions. The way to really isolate Iran is to get China to isolate Iran. And you might say, well, we can't tell China what to do. Well, in many ways we can if we want to. If we're really willing to go to the mat on trade with China, we can get China to stop purchasing oil from Iran. China clearly views Iran as a critical part of its global campaign to achieve domination over the United States. And China desperately needs Iran as a supplier of petroleum. And so to me, these two issues are intricately linked, and not enough people see that reality, I think, of Iran and China. If we truly isolate Iran economically and make them completely an island in the world of trade and necessitate and force really an all-out blockade almost of their oil export, that to me is far more effective than U.S. troops in the region risking American lives in a country like Iraq, which doesn't even want us there in the first place. So I agree that Iran needs to be countered. I just think there are much better ways to do it than with American troops.
One little additional topic that you can sort of tease here for your show
oh my gosh,
tonight
he's
at 5.
producing the Steve Cortes show.
Well, I'm trying to help.
He can't help himself.
I'm trying to help. He's a newbie. I'm trying to be collegial. Yeah, collegial.
Okay, yeah. What's your
you got Bannon on tonight? You said on your show tonight. Bannon has said that the impeachment trial will be the trial of the century. Well, the century is relatively young, but still, it better not be the trial of the century. If it's the trial of the century, isn't Trump and Senate Republicans, aren't they doing something wrong? What's your perspective on what Mitch McConnell, the tack Mitch McConnell should take?
Right. Well, listen, we'll ask him about that tonight. I will. But I believe what he means by that, from what I've read previously, his statements, is what he means by the trial of the century is not that because the trial of Donald Trump, per se, will be the trial of the century, but because what we will do is shine a very bright light on really the dreadful and reprehensible behavior of the Obama DOJ as it relates to spying on the Trump campaign up until the election and trying to delegitimize President-elect Trump during the transition period. So I think that to me is also the reason why I do want a full trial. And I know Mitch McConnell thinks it's better to not call witnesses, to expeditiously get rid of this process because there's no merit to the charges. And I agree that there's no merit to the charges. However, given that we've already come this far in this process, that I think is a sham inquest rather than a real impeachment, rather than a constitutional process. But given that we've come this far, in my view, it is now important for the American people that the shenanigans and the abuses, and I would argue crimes, in fact, of the Obama national security apparatus and DOJ deserve the full light of day. And we can bring much of that out in a full Senate trial. And if that happens, then we are talking about the trial of the century. And if it happens to occur concurrently with perhaps or immediately preceding the results of the Durham investigation, U.S. Attorney Durham up in Connecticut, which I believe, I've never been a believer that the IG report would give us much, and it didn't. I mean, I think there were some damning revelations, but on the whole, it was like a lot of IG reports where the swamp to some degree protects its own. I think the Durham inquiry could be far more damning for people like Comey, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, some of the absolute top echelon of the Obama DOJ and Obama national security apparatus, who I believe at the least committed highly unethical acts and perhaps even criminal acts in trying to counter candidate Donald Trump and President-elect Donald Trump.
He is Steve Cortes. The show debuts at 5 p.m. tonight. You can get Stimulating Conversation, more of his insights starting at 5 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, and you can learn more about Steve at 560theanswer.com/Steve Cortes, or follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Cortes, or if that's not enough, go on Twitter at Cortes Steve.
Yeah, Steve Cortes. Cortes. Marsha. Steve Cortes, congratulations again on the show. Yes. Happy to have you on board the team here at AM 560, and thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Keith Peters in for Lou Dobbs. The Fed sees little risk of a recession. Trump administration putting the brakes on exports of artificial intelligence, and pickup truck sales look rosy. Those stories next.
Hi, this is Dennis Prager. There are over 400 programs in the Prager store, and now by becoming a Pragertopia Unlimited member, you can listen to every program in the store. Courses, lectures, show segments, even my Torah teachings. Almost everything I've ever recorded over the last 20 years, over 1,000 hours of program. Of course, Pragertopia Unlimited members get every radio show since 2009 as well, all commercial-free on demand. Wow. No, this is a big deal. This is truly a big deal, if I'm allowed to say that about my own work. For a limited time, it's only $119 for an entire year to join Pragertopia Unlimited. Get to listen to every show in the Prager